We all need to have those conversations at the board level and in the C-suite. You've been an ardent advocate for women. I know you said this helps everybody, but for really increasing the number of women in tech and technology leadership. What do you think? How do you think we can increase the number of women who are actually leading at the top levels in technology?
Yeah, so Julie, I want to answer that question from both the supply side and the demand side. Okay. So let's talk about the supply side first. I think we need, as a society, so teachers, parents, all of us, we need to encourage girls to study math and science from a very young age, because I read a study not too long ago from the Society of Women Engineers, and they said in grade school, boys, actually 60% of boys said, oh, their favorite subjects are math and science, compared to only 40% of girls. Yeah. And then when you go to college, and you look at the top 5 states in the United States that graduated the most women in engineering, the percentage is only 20%. So from a supply side, we need to encourage more women and more girls to study math and science, right? And then, Julie, I also think women would benefit from having both aspirational but also practical mentors, in their journey. And what I meant by that, sure, I think it's great to have aspirational, role models like people who win the Nobel Prize, or the dean,
people like you,
like dean of engineering of a big engineering school, those kind of things. But the truth is, in your journey, I mean, it's good to have an inspiration, but in your journey, you probably need someone who are just 2-3 steps ahead of you, so that they can give you more practical advice. You know what I mean, right? And then now let's go to the demand side. So companies. Yeah. Companies need to be very intentional in not only hiring, because I think they are hiring, but also to create the inclusive environment to actually retain and develop their high potential women leaders. And of course, we all know, Julie, this starts from the top, right? Culture starts from the top. It's from the board, the CEO, the C-suite. These leadership programs for women have to be fully funded, championed by the CEO, and be integrated into the company's real leadership development program, and not just like a fringe, kind of like a fringe program. And so I think we need to do all these things: supply side, role model, demand side, to really make it happen.
Yeah. Well, that's a great formula. When I think about leadership, there's so many different ways you define leadership, right? And I would love to hear a little bit about your own leadership principles. I have to say, you are that person that you were just describing. I want to underscore that. I know you're very humble in many ways, but you're the leader we're all looking to. And I would love to hear about the leadership principles that you have, and how did you develop those? What are those hooks for you?
Another great question, Julie. I think my leadership principles have evolved over time, of course, but in general, they can be summarized, in as follows. So first, given my experience in technology and all that, I think leaders are customer focused, because in technology, sometimes you work with brilliant people, they invent new things. But I think leaders have to be customer focused, they have to take the time to truly understand the customer problems and can articulate, all these great invention, how they're actually solving real customer problems. Yeah. Then second, I think leaders act like owners. And what I meant by that is they think long-term. They, will not sacrifice long-term values for short-term gains. And they also act on behalf of the whole organization.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And then the last one, which is very important, and I think I'm still kind of growing in this area too. I think leaders are developing other leaders instead of other followers. Yeah. And maybe you've heard of this, Julie. There is this concept of the leadership journey and the 5 levels of leadership by John Maxwell. I really like that, because it basically says most people start in a positional leadership position because of title, because of their position, but it's actually the least rewarding. It's the easiest to get to, but it's the least rewarding. And as you continue to grow in your own leadership journey, you'll start realizing that you really get the most, like satisfaction personally, but also to like make things better for the organization is when you're being willing and intentional to develop other leaders. And so I think Like at the end of the day, the pinnacle of leadership is when you develop other leaders.
Oh, do you have your favorite stories or examples of anyone you've really developed over time that you're most proud of?
Sure, I do. I don't want to mention names, but
Okay.
yeah, like I had a few young people over the years. There was one young emerging leader from the Middle East, believe it or not. You know what I mean? Like somehow I got connected with her through the State Department Tech Women program, and today she's like a, I guess, policymaker. Like in
Yeah.
her own country, and I feel very proud of that. And then
Oh,
the other one was, so I'm originally from Indonesia. There was this gentleman, actually young gentleman, and I met him a long time ago. He, didn't go to school abroad. He was from a local school from a small town, and he started a company. And, like in the past, I've been mentoring him and all that. And today, my God, his company is actually one of the
oh,
largest unicorns. And it's just got,
oh, you're kidding. That
and
must feel
yes,
so
it
good.
was like, I was like, wow, right? Like, I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's because of me, of course, but when you see things like that, you're just like, wow, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you
it,
know,
it, it just what's possible. It's such a good story right now. I think we're all looking for good stories, examples of people who, really were able to make it happen. Right now, it feels, depending on when you're listening to the podcast, this is the beginning of what's feeling like, a financial challenge for the United States and certainly the globe, where the markets are down. How are you motivating teams to drive towards success during a time of uncertainty and challenge like this? What is your strategy?
mhm. And Julie, it's funny because I felt we just came out of a challenging time with the
Uh,
pandemic, and now we're about to enter another uncertain times, right? I think as leaders, I think one of our roles is really to create the safe space and environment by being even more authentic
yeah,
and more compassionate, and
yeah,
also be able to provide a realistic sense of hope. And what
yeah,
I meant by that, you can be more, I mean, usually if you have a good team, people want to do a good job, you know what I
yeah,
mean? But during times of uncertainties, they worry because they don't know what might happen. And as a leader, you can show authenticity, I think, by sharing what you know and what you don't know, and be open
yeah,
and honest, because I think people appreciate the transparency instead of you sugarcoating it. And
yeah,
the second, I think you can show compassion by understanding, giving them the flexibility,
yes,
trusting them that they will get the job done and the job done well, perhaps not on your schedules, but on their own
yeah,
schedule, but there'll
right.
be time.
Yeah.
And then, you can show compassion that way. And then last but not least, providing a realistic sense of hope. There's so many things, little things that you can do to help, the people feel that they are part of a community that cares, like perhaps doing, I mean, in the pandemic, of course, doing virtual, birthday celebration, or even sending, some of your people inspirational reading materials that can
Yeah.
provide a little inspiration during time of uncertainty. So I
That's
think,
great. Those are great
yeah,
practical suggestions we can all do, no matter what level of leadership we're at. We all are leaders in some way, even if we don't have positional leadership authority, right?
exactly.
So I think a lot of us, when we see someone like you, the award winner, we think life's binary, and we're like, oh, she's had the golden ticket, the life that's been so easy. But really, we all know that life's got, full of all kinds of ups and downs and challenges. Where have you stumbled? Have you had challenges? And what are the key takeaways? Like, what did you learn from those moments?
Of course, I've had challenges just like everyone else, right? And they vary from, little things to bigger things. But I think what's important is perspective. So when I take a step back, I don't think any of my failures or challenges have been life or death situation, which is already a blessing. So it's very important to have that perspective. But I think what's more important is what you ask, what do you learn from it? I think failures really add richness actually to your experience and also build your character, right? And I think your attitude during challenging times and adversity are very important, because when you think about it, attitude doesn't give you any advantage during good times because everyone has a good attitude during good times. But when it is during challenging times, it's like your attitude, I think, really makes a difference.